like to call to order the Nevada Commission for Reconstruction of the V&T Railroad. It's Thursday, September 26th, 1 o'clock. Will you rise for Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Denny Dodson, absent. Nick Morano.
Here.
Stan Jones.
Present.
Mike Santos.
Here.
Marshall McBride, absent.
We have a quorum. Okay, item number 2 for possible action, approval of the agenda. You had a chance to review the agenda. Can I have an approval, please? A motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any comment? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Nay? So be it. This is the time for any public comment of the agenda. Anybody have any public comment they want to offer? Seeing none, we'll move on to item number 4 for possible action, approval of the minutes for the 29 August meeting. I have a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for August 29, 2019 as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? So approved. Item number 5 for discussion only, financial report. Elaine?
Commissioners, in your board packet, you will find a report. It's an in-house report, and we are using, of course, the QuickBooks as our profit and loss report for this month. I've got to tell you, we are ahead of last year. And I do believe that has a lot to do with our regular season ticket sales were up, and because we received our interlocal contribution from Story County in the summer months versus the fall months. Polar Express tickets are a little bit ahead, but right now, as of July 1st through yesterday, we have deposited $609,000 in revenue. As far as our expenses go, again, as I explained at the last board meeting, $360,000 in expenses. That's not unheard of, especially when this is the bulk of our expenses are in at the very first of a fiscal year. And that's when most of our activity takes place. It's when we prepare ourselves for the Polar Express. And so you'll see, as far as high dollar amounts that might stand out, our legal and professional services. This includes Mike, but it also includes myself, Ken, Gabe, the engineers, the legal, your general manager, and your marketing retainer. So again, not bad, $58,000. Online media, you see $25,000 as far as advertising, and then you'll see some of the social and traditional advertising. The traditional advertising at $48,000. So we're looking at nearly $70,000 in advertising. Again, we did that. It's very normal to see a large expenditure at the beginning of a fiscal year. We're not only advertising our ongoing steam trains, but we are advertising for the Polar Express. The train services, $145,000. That's average. We average about anywhere between $90,000 on. Well, I'll just say $90,000 on average per month. And then I think that's all that really stands out, unless you see something there you'd like me to explain.
Any comments, Mike?
No.
Elaine, looking at track-related service expenses, did you get the Sperry bill yet? Is that included in that line item? Do you know?
It is not.
Okay, thanks.
You were going to split that up and then let me know what we owed and what Tom owed?
Yes, once I see it, I can go through that and then, because we're obviously splitting that cost with Tom. And so we can split it up basically on a prorated basis, how many hours they spent on Tom's track, how much they spent on ours, and then hopefully we can do either a prorata or a 50-50 split on the mobilization cost. But I haven't seen the bill yet. It should be coming to you, so,
Okay, and it is within our budget, so.
yes,
We were prepared for that.
right.
Any public comment? Seeing none, this is for discussion only. You have anything else on this?
Nope, that's it.
Item number 6 for discussion, progress report on the number 18 steam engine.
Nick Morano is going to report.
Thank you, Elaine. Mr. Chair, this past week, Elaine Spencer, Mike Santos, and I had an opportunity to go out and check on the status of number 18. Tom Gray was unable to make the meeting today. He's emailed a very short statement, and I'll expand on it a little bit here. This past weekend, I believe we had a successful steam test. There are still many things left to do. I've called the federal inspectors and are waiting for them to inspect the engine. So I can say, having just taken a real good look at the engine, we're at the point now where I think the last couple of items, if it was like a building construction project, the things that really remain fall into the punch list type category. All the big items required to get number 18 operational again have been done. The boiler is fully operational and had a hydrostatic test. Tom actually fired it up on Sunday. When we arrived 2 days later, it was still, you could still feel the heat from the boiler. He didn't have any issues with it. So I do expect that once the federal inspection is complete, we'll finally be looking at the end of this rehabilitation project. So no firm date, unfortunately. So we're kind of where we've always been. But the engine looks complete. I mean, we sat up in the cab and it certainly looks like it's ready to go.
Mike, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I'll just echo what Nick said and add that I'm hoping, even though we don't have a date yet, that we can at least get it on the tracks once before the season ends, just to showcase it and give people something to look forward to for next season.
Any public comment? Seeing none. Item number 8 for discussion only, update on the proposed rail bike operation.
Well, we actually, number 7,
Oh, I'm sorry, number 7, approval for interim agreement with the V&T for use of number 18 engine. Have you got anything on that, Mike?
Just to update, the board, we've, Stan and Elaine and I met with, Brian Russell, who is the attorney for Tom. Tom did not make the meeting, but joined by phone. Tom did not make the meeting, but did participate by phone, and what we have come up with is an interim agreement to extend the term of the existing lease until April 30th of next year under the same terms and conditions and costs that that are provided in the lease agreement. In the meanwhile, we're going to work on a new lease, and Ryan proposed, and I'm not sure if it's something the commission will want to do or not, but he proposed combining the lease agreement with the operating agreement and having just one global agreement for the operation of the 18 and the railroad operations for the commission for the next season. I had suggested to him and did not get a response. I've called and emailed several times, but I've yet to talk to Ryan about a simple agreement that would be signed by Stan and by Tom that would extend the term of the existing lease agreement to April 30th of 2020. He did send me an email saying, as a result of the meeting of the four of us with Tom's participation by phone, he sent an email confirming that we had all agreed to extend the existing lease agreement until we could get a new agreement drafted until the end of April of next year. But I would like, and I think Elaine would like, to have a simple one, doesn't have to be more than a couple of sentences really, that the parties agree to extend the term of the existing lease agreement to and through April 30th, 2020. So we're working on that aspect of things, and hopefully I'll hear from Ryan. I'll keep after him. That's where we stand. We met in his office, I've forgotten the date of it, but about 3 weeks ago. Be happy to respond to any questions you might have.
Well, it's my opinion that we don't want to operate that train without a current agreement, even if it comes back for 1 week, right?
I think we need to get something
That's
in
what I'm
writing
saying,
that
yeah.
confirms or reconfirms the
Right.
terms of the existing lease, because there's some important terms in there that we need to make sure apply, and that is the burden of insurance and whose insurance is primary and whose is secondary, ours being the secondary policy in the event that the policy required for the V&T Railroad is insufficient to cover loss. Ours would kick in at that time. There are some other important terms in the agreement that I think we need to renew through next April, and also include in any new lease agreement once we get it.
Any public comment on this? Just for the board's edification, it's my plans with your,
There's one thing I'd like to suggest that you guys consider. In the event we do get a simple extension agreement on the lease, I'd like the commission to authorize the chairman to go ahead and sign that independent of being at a commission meeting. I'd like him to have the authority to go ahead and sign that agreement once we get it drafted and approved, so that we have a lease that's immediately effective on signature.
so can I have a motion on that?
Yeah, I'm definitely amenable to that. So you want me to try a motion?
Real quick, the April 30th date,
It's before the start of next
that's
season.
before the start of next
Yeah.
season, so that's why we came up, okay, I just wanted to make sure. And you're good with this, Elaine, and you reviewed this with Mike and?
I
you're on
have,
board?
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let me try this. So I move to authorize the chairman to sign an extended agreement in regards to the operation of the number 18 engine that extends the current term and language of the current approved agreement
30 April.
through 30 April 2020.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Any question? All those approved? Aye. So be it. One comment, I want to review all contracts during the off-season, including the V&T Railroad contract, our contract with marketing, with Elaine. I think that's, some of these are 10, 12 years old, and I think it's time that we renew them. So that's our plans after the holidays, after we get by. That's just for information. Okay, number 8, for discussion, update on the proposed rail bike operation. Elaine?
Okay, I'm going to ask Mike Santos to give the update.
Oh, okay, Mike.
Okay, so meeting with Elaine and talking about getting the rail bikes going. Right now, we're discussing getting a prototype And that involves getting, the biggest thing about the prototypes are the wheels and making sure that the wheels work on our tracks to keep us from having any problems such as a derailment. And so we're working with Jim Adamski, sorry, I wanted to say it right, with putting together a proposal to purchase these wheels. And we're going to put together a prototype to be delivered so that we can put it on the tracks and test these bikes prior to getting them out. It is my hope that we can get these bikes built and put on the tracks by next season, and coordinate with some of the events that we have coming in Carson City next year and into, up into Virginia City, that we can showcase our rail bikes in conjunction with these other events. I think with all the families that come in with the sporting events and all the other things that we have, I think it'd be a good thing to show. So that's where we're at as far as the rail bikes go. I don't know if you have anything to add, Elaine?
So we are shooting for October still. And that being said, it's the manufacturing of the wheels. We know that we can get the polyurethane wheels. It's the hardeners on the inside. Jim Adamski did not want to bring the bike here without the hardeners on the wheels in case they didn't work on our track, and that would be a negative experience for the board. So we're working hard at trying to find a supplier that can provide us with the wheels and the hardeners that are to be inserted inside the wheels. It's going to be anywhere, I would say, between $1,500 to $1,800 to purchase the wheels. The bike itself is very affordable, and Jim has one, including a motor that he's not going to charge us for, because if it didn't work out, we didn't want it, he would just take it with him, and we would own 4 wheels. But I'm asking the board for your approval to purchase prototype wheels for our bikes based on our needs. And I know I have authority to spend up to $5,000 for operations, but this is something that it's a test run. And if you're all okay with that, we're going to move quickly and get the wheels so that we can get the prototype here.
You're still working with the skunk train people, right? I mean, you're still communicating
With Robert?
right?
Yes, and it was to work on mainly the wheels.
Right.
So that we could buy them in bulk. Yes, they're trying to get the same type of wheel that we're looking at. But what Jim's also bringing with him is a larger electric motor based on our needs in the canyon. But yes, we're still trying to continue to work with Skunk Train and see if there's some benefit to ordering even parts
Right.
for the rail bikes if we buy in bulk.
Any comment?
Just to be clear, the wheels it's $1,800 for a set of 4 wheels?
So that's, well, the wheels and then the stiffeners. And then, of course, shipping. So that's an estimate. But $1,800, I feel good that that's what we're going to end up spending for 4. But we need to have the type of wheels on our rail bike so that people can pick it up, see how lightweight it is, show that it's track friendly, people friendly, how the bikes will operate, how the motor operates. So, but as far as the wheels are concerned, if we brought a heavier bike here, that there might be an image that we don't want to portray of how our operations would operate. So getting the stiffeners as quickly as we possibly can. I'm asking the supplier to go ahead, move forward, and build us 4.
Where's the supplier? Is he Colorado?
Leadville, Colorado. Otherwise, we can order them from France, but I've not done that yet. And those are our 2 suppliers. The people in France have them. They use them on their bikes. But it's something new to the U.S. But Leadville, Sean Fry sounds like he's got something ready to go. And he's looking at
Any public
building.
comment? Seeing none, do you want a formal approval?
It's mainly discussion.
We can't do it, I'm sorry, we can't
Yeah,
do it. because
so maybe
we're
I'm just
discussing.
gonna, the best way to put this, I'm gonna inform you that I'm spending $1,800 on something that may or may not work.
Okay, okay, thank you. Number 9, marketing update. You. Introduce your partner.
For those of you that don't know Jacqueline, she started with us during session. She was one of our legislative assistants, and we ended up keeping her on full-time after. So she has started to work pretty closely with Molly on our PR contracts, and especially this one, and is an absolute rock star. So we're very lucky to have her, and you'll be seeing more of her in the months to come. So, thanks, Jacqueline. All right, well, I apologize for not coming as prepared as Molly normally does. She normally takes care of these, but she got sent elsewhere at the last minute. So I'm just gonna kind of run down this breakdown that she put together, and then if you have any questions that I can't answer, we can get her on the line, or we can submit something to you guys after the fact. So a quick recap of the last month. Display ads remained steady, just over 300,000 impressions, which is good. We continue to see a substantial increase in impressions, clicks, and the click-through rate year over year, and that's, again, what we want to be seeing. For paid social, nearly 142,000 impressions, which is about 3 times what we did last month, so that's a solid bump. We had some prominent placements in the Tahoe Daily Tribune, the Lahontan Valley News, the Appeal, Record Courier. Those are mostly for Toast of the Canyon and the steam trains, and run through the end of this season, so they will continue. For website data, organic traffic continues to be the main type of visitor, followed by over 30% from direct traffic. And again, direct is, through advertising, and organic are people that we can't necessarily put a finger on why they came, so. Update on the steam train. We utilize the new assets on all the social, digital, and traditional advertising mediums. Saw quite a bit more engagement since the photos went up, so that really helps demonstrate the brand and bring people in. And we revised the targeting to update the demographic once school went back, so we weren't relying so much on the children and stuff like that, and only saw a minor dip in ticket sales, so that was favorable as well. Toast of the Canyon, we sent out an e-blast for it, got about a 15.7, so we'll call it 16% open rate, and just south of 11% click-through rate. It's a little bit lower than the previous one, but we doubled the click-through rate, which again, we kind of attribute to the content and the photos being there. For earned media, Carson Now, we were in Carson Now for camel races and the Polar Express auditions. And then Channel 4, Fox 11, Carson Now, and the Appeal again for the 150th anniversary. Kind of looking forward to the rest of the season. Toast of the Canyon Spirits Train, we're building assets with Cemetery Gin and Bloody Mucker photos, so those should help and they will look really good, so we're excited about that. We'll be sending out a press release for the end of the Toast season and hosting a specialty event. And Molly will have more details for you guys on that. I'm not privy to what exactly that looks like. For Polar, we'll have print and radio ads in addition to the traditional digital. The first release will go out in October, and after that, we'll follow up to get interviews and in-studio opportunities. And we'll talk a little bit about that next, actually. Additional media opportunities, we're looking at maybe trying to bring the cast in the studio or inviting media to come out and participate in some of the practice runs or training, and then inviting them and then having that kind of coincide with a train ride. So a little bit more interactive, a little bit more engaging, a little bit more memorable. And some more just general kind of looking forward things. Coming up on the end of the season, so we're making sure that we deliver big time on these last two toasts and our remaining steam and steam rides. And then we're looking to sell out Polar, prior to those dates, which helps, I know, a lot on your end for the planning and knowing where we stand. The steam trade, in general, is performing well, even with the loss of riders with back to school. It's kind of continued to go strong. And then we maintain our print advertising, and we are preparing for the radio run for Polar, in addition to working with Elaine on potentially securing a billboard in Reno. So those are my prepared remarks for today, but if you have any questions, I'll do my best, and if not, we will get the answers from Molly.
Any questions? I think we're good. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Item number 10 for discussion only, General Manager's report.
I'd like to report on a handful of things. Our ticket sales. Ticket sales to date, we have run, or we have ridden, past our passenger count is 6,332 people. So that's good. We're right on target, if not a little bit above. Our projections, our budget, I only budgeted 120 passengers per train. We have been meeting, the majority of our trains, we are at capacity and have asked for a third car off and on. And so again, once we have that third car, we're going to be able to attract more riders and give them a little more wiggle room. But overall, thank goodness for the weather and the conditions, great marketing. We've brought in quite a few passengers. Toast of the Canyon is way up. That's 502 passengers to date. Polar Express. Now, the Polar Express, we are at 3,686 pre-sold tickets and or $203,000. This number here, by the time we hit October, I hope to come back to our October meeting and report that we have met that goal 3 times over, mainly because of the marketing that we do have out there, the billboards that are going up. If you want to take Highway 50 over by CBS, a billboard just went up today for the Polar Express. So we're going to have a billboard in Carson and one in Reno.
What was that figure again?
For the Polar,
Yeah.
$203,000. As in comparison, so year to date for our regular steam season, we're at $265,000. This does not, though, include May and June. May and June are still some of our biggest months. They fall within a fiscal year time period. So we do on average maybe 125,000 people, or $125,000. And so that's when you see our overall season jump up to where we can really look at it and say, okay, did we meet or did we not meet our expectations and our budget? So overall, those are the figures. Our numbers look good, and I did report our numbers to the VCTC. I'm going to go out at least once a quarter and report to some of our partners how we're doing as far as the train goes. Wine train, it's we boosted that up this year. We did every other week or at least twice a month, and we saw some great attendance, especially as it starts to cool down. You heard Matt talk about the last 2 wine trains, the last one for wine, which we do have our labeled wine now that we're serving. And that's pretty exciting when people see wine bottles with our logo on them. And so that's this Saturday at 5 o'clock is a wine train. The spirits train on October 12th, we expect that to be a fun one because we are going to be serving Bloody Muckers. And that's using gin, cemetery gin in the combination. We'll be serving those a half hour before the train, and then we'll serve wine on the train. But we expect that one to be a huge one, a sold-out train. Our anniversary trains this year, I believe that being that they were always on Fridays, they help sell tickets. We average anywhere between 100 and 120 people on Fridays, and that's not bad. Anniversary train, they receive the logo pin. They receive we have a skit that goes on with William Sharon, and we were successful at putting together a nice little museum at the train station. So if you ever have a chance, just come over there before Polar Express because we need to take it down once we start converting into the Polar Express. But we do indeed have a little museum inside the train station now that highlights the Virginia and Truckee Railroad. And then finally, fourth item is the Polar Express Committee has been meeting regularly, and we decided yesterday that we are going to start attending civic group meetings, either as speakers or added just as a visitor to their luncheons or breakfasts and putting on little skits for the Polar Express just to, again, promote, market. And then we're also going to offer individuals that if they would like to have us perform a short skit at their Christmas parties, that we can do that as well, as long as we can promote the fact that we're selling train tickets. We've split up. We all have our individual duties and reaching out to the public and finding those partnerships. We are working with the motels, casino, restaurant groups to start putting together partnerships so that our out-of-town visitors can find a place to stay while they're here. And we can also add on dining experiences to our passengers. This is something that we talked about last year, but this year we've had enough time ahead of Polar Express to go out and actually seek those partnerships. And we've got them in Reno, Carson City, and Gardnerville.
Very good.
That's it.
Any comment? Sounds like you're on top of it. Very good. Thank you.
Different year.
Any public comment? Number 11, engineers report. Ken?
I'm gonna ask Gabe to come on up. Come on, Gabe, why don't you come sit next to me here? And this is a picture of one of the little things that we found in the upper left-hand corner, except the one we found was much smaller than that. I shouldn't say we found it. Story guys did. Anyway, I did do a quick little written report because I wasn't sure if I was gonna make it, but we went ahead and went through that. And the first thing was, yes, we went through the Sperry ultrasonic rail detection car to look for internal rail defects, and we did that in conjunction with Tom Gray with the VTRR. And we will be splitting costs with those folks. So I think we actually found on our track, there were 3 defects that were found. One was a bolt hole crack, which was, as I recall, was in the same location where they were pondering about 5 years ago. The last time we ran the Sperry car, they stopped and looked at that location and said, is it a bolt hole crack or is it not? And then we had these other things which are called technical defects, which basically is just a start of a split in the head. Those are pretty minor. Gabe's gonna be doing the necessary corrections on those. On the case of the bolt hole crack, we're gonna replace a rail. And the other 2 locations basically just require basically us to put a set of joint bars. Cut the rail or just put the bars on?
Just put the bars on.
Okay. Anyway, so he's up to speed on that. Again, I think it's really a good idea that we do this. We're not required to do an ultrasonic. As a tourist railroad, we are not required to do an ultrasonic inspection. We tried to do it once every 4 years. If we were a freight railroad, a short line railroad, Class 2 railroad, I think we would have to do it every couple of years. So we're not under any mandate, nor is Tom, to do a ultrasonic rail inspection. But every defect that you find is a good thing. And there's a couple of defects here and there that could prevent, what we don't want to have is a broken rail under traffic, because depending on the brake, your train is on the ground and you have a little problem. Then you have to go through with your PR as to why that train is sitting on the dirt, so. Anyhow, so that takes care of that. I also had given, I got a couple pictures here, it's not really necessary. We finished the US 50 bridge painting, which was the interior of the girders across the bridge, as well as the surface, and there was some rust spots. Those basically just a general maintenance item. Again, last time that bridge was painted was in February of 2009. So hopefully we won't have to do any more work on that. One of the things that we will do is we're trying to get some, Kent Hanford is trying to get some spray paint made up so we can touch up when necessary some of the exterior portions where people can actually see the bridge. And the idea is if we can hopefully when we do some maintenance up there on the lighting on the bridge, we can touch up some of those spots there too with the can of spray paint. There's primer underneath that silver paint, which so basically just a surface treatment. But the work that was done this year actually involved taking some of the paint off down to bare metal and picked up a couple of items that NDOT picked up. And so we should be good to go. None of the painting items were structurally significant, but you take care of them before they become a problem. Next couple items on my list, it's capital improvements, if you will, and those are basically for the board to ponder. And the first one I broke out separately was we can easily build about a half a mile into Carson River Canyon before we get into extensive earthwork and or retaining wall / culvert improvements. So I put that on the list in thinking that if we were able to come up with the funding for that, that gives the line another half mile of rail bikes to take down so they can really see the canyon. One of the things that we're gonna probably have to do wherever that track ends, whether now or a half mile away, is we're gonna have to flatten a piece of a track out to essentially it runs on a little more than 2% grade. We'd flatten a piece out so the rail bikes can turn around a little easier. And that would be temporary. If you extended beyond that, you'd pull that out and then continue the grade on down to wherever you stopped. And so basically I put a little discussion there as to, yes, we could do that half mile really easily. We have plans done. We've got the right of way in place. We still have an environmental assessment that would cover that work, which I think we're still alive on that, even though it was a 2010 approval date on the environmental assessment. Because one of the items that was covered under that was the East Gate depot expansion, and we're plugging away on that. So my justification is yes, that EA is still good, because we're plugging away on it, because you don't want to have to go through and do that again. First one was that thick, the second one was that thick, the next one will be that thick. So I put a couple other items on the capital improvements. Culvert installation, that's below the model airplane field. Ultimately, we have to put a culvert in there, which we should have done when we reconstructed that track, and we just all missed it and didn't find out there was a problem there until 2017. My recommendation on the board on that, because it's not a cheap item, it's going to be $50,000 thereabouts to get that culvert in, is let's just wait and see, because I suspicion if we have a problem, it'll be during the winter when we're not utilizing that track. And so that's not something I wouldn't recommend we do immediately. We just monitor it, and then ultimately we're going to have to do something there. But right now, everything is stable, and it was stable between 1941 and 2017 without a problem. So we'll have to see what's happens going forward. 1941 is when that track was torn up originally. Then I've got a couple other items. Basically, we probably were a little more aggressive in some of the sidings and tracks we built between Gold Hill and Eastgate. We probably don't need that much track. we could shorten some of those tracks, turn a couple of them into stub tracks with switches on one end only. Couple of advantages, there's some capital cost in doing that, but then ultimately there's less maintenance, particularly at Donovan Siding, which is a terrible location. We had to put that in to satisfy the Federal Highway Administration for phase one of the project because they asked us where our terminus on phase one of the project was, so we said Donovan Siding, so we put that in there. And it's used, Tom uses it to store cars. It's just in a lousy location because of the curves, and Gabe spends more time maintaining, working and fixing those two switches than any other switches in the entire railroad.
Combined.
Combined?
Combined.
How much? We got Hayward's to work on yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's basically some possible items for capital work in the future. Of course, once we have this rail and ties, doesn't mean we can't use it elsewhere. Most of that rail is 90-pound rail. I'd recommend we limit that for use on sidings versus the main line. Our main line rail is a little bit heavier. It runs from 112 to 115 pounds per yard per 3 feet.
But if you use that when you extend it down, can you?
Well, I would recommend not using that rail for that. I would recommend you get heavy rail with the, not so much for the heavyweight rail, but the 5.5-inch base rail, which 90-pound is not, allows us to use the bigger tie plates which have double shoulders on it.
Right.
And with the curvature we've got, the idea is when we built this, it was quite controversial using 90-pound versus the heavier rail, but the idea is we don't want to have any gauge problems, and we want to have basically limit the maintenance on the track itself, other than we know there's going to be settlement. But as far as the physical rail slash tie plate slash tie interface, we're not going to have any problems there because it's way heavy. So I'd recommend, we could use a 90-pound, it's not a bad rail section, but for half a mile, I'd say we probably need to buy some others. What that rail could be used for is ultimately, I suspect there will be a terminal in Carson City someplace. Work fine perfect for those yard tracks. And we do have about 700 lineal foot of 90-pound rail already stockpiled down there, so. Track feet, I should say. Basically, there's a list of some items coming up. Gabe's getting ready to put some pre-emergent down. I think we already did all the inspections, didn't we, for the ditches and culverts? So you have a list of to-do work and some joinery. There's always a little surge of work at the end of the season, particularly on the ditches and culverts. We like to get those cleaned up as much as possible. We're not unique. All the railroads tend to make sure their culverts are good for an anticipated storm coming up during the winter. And basically, that's the list of stuff we got going on. We got current slow orders, and Gabe, I know you're working on the Overman embankment surfacing. But I'm going to let you talk a little bit because you're here. And of course, Gabe Williman is our track maintenance contractor, at least through the end of this year anyway. Then I guess after January 1st, you can fire him if you want to, or maybe you hire him back, so. Because I think his contract's up.
Yeah. So, yeah, we just keep on plugging along. We've had a few dips. At Hayward's is one right in the switch. And we wanted to raise that up as soon as the weather got cool enough where we weren't afraid of track movement after we raise it up. So we raised that up, and we need to do another raise on it. Because when you're tamping with hand tamping guns, you're always going to have to come back.
Right.
And then we need to tamp up Oberman. There's a little bit more settlement this year, and I think that's just caused from 2017, and the track's a decade old. You know, it's what happens. And the older the track gets, the more maintenance it's going to need. But so far, it's looking pretty good. There's, like I said, there's a few dips here and there that we need to take care of, but it's not a spot yet where we're going to have to go in and change a whole bunch of ties. So that's a bonus that, you know, with Ken using a lot of brand new ties, he saved a lot of money. And we could be out there every day changing ties if that wasn't the case. So that was a good call. But we have a little bit of grinding to do, a little bit of welding to do to get the clickety-clack, a little less of a clickety-clack with the trains going down the track.
Do we have any ballast repair we need to do this year?
There's a bit. As soon as any place where we lift up, we always have to put ballast down. And we have a whole bunch stockpiled up at Gold Hill. And we waited for a while to put down the first couple of cars because the ballast car was in use with Tom. And we have to go off of his schedule a lot of times. And sometimes his dance card's full. So.
We've also got another delivery of ballast that's gonna be dumped off at the Overman pit, so you're gonna have to get that out of there before Polar.
Yep.
So, that's on your list also.
Yeah.
That's the second half of that ballast order.
Yeah, and we could use all that up first. It'd be not a problem to use all that ballast up. We have plenty of spots that need rock.
There's never,
Yeah.
there's never no need for ballast.
Yeah, it's you know, how much money you need, it's never enough. Same way with rock and railroads. You know, you always need ballast.
And you're also gonna be doing some, again, with the ditch cleaning, probably use Tom's excavator, right? To
Yes.
clean out some of those ditches and drag a rail down and replace it.
Yeah,
So-
as long as that ballast, or as long as that excavator is up and running. Last time I talked to him, he needed to do some work on it, but
Okay.
let's hope it gets work done so we can use it. Otherwise, we'll have to go down with the backhoe again, and that
Yep.
doesn't do us quite a good job.
We'll do what we can do, so.
Questions?
Yeah, that's about it that I have for engineers report. Again, I
got
always
one
put on a wish list, for stuff we can do down in the future, but there's always room to build.
I got one question, Ken. What's your estimated cost on that half mile of track?
I think I put about $500,000. That's what it amounts to. That might be a little high. I just sort of figured $150 a foot. And plus, the plans are pretty well done. There's not a whole lot of earthwork. I think there's a culvert or two that needs to be put in there. But that's pretty much the prices. Ballpark is $500,000.
Any public comment? Thank you very much, guys, both of you. Thank you.
Oh, by the way, these are yours, as well as the one that's out there, cleaning out my desk.
Item 12 for discussion only, the attorney's report, Mike.
The main thing that is out of the ordinary, I've already reported on, and that's the 18 lease, so I don't have anything more to add. So I'd be happy to respond to any questions, but it's just the usual minutes review, agenda review, coordinating with Elaine on administrative stuff.
So are you gonna relay to Russell, our comments, our thoughts on the interim agreement? That we want an interim agreement signed?
I've already told him that, but I'm gonna keep at it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that will.
Okay. Okay, for discussion only, our next meeting will be 31 October, 1 PM here in the community center. Commissioner comments, Mike, do you have any?
Just kind of want to build on Mike's comments about the 18. It would be great to get it out one time at least before the end of the season. And I do think we're getting close. So just very hopeful there. Looking forward to the train, the 10-12 Spirit train.
Yes.
I think my wife and I are going to have to
Yeah.
make that one. Get a couple of bloody muckers
Right.
and enjoy the canyon.
Perfect. Chairman Jones, we don't have a public comment at the end of our agenda, but I do believe we have some public comment.
Okay, any public comment?
Chair Jones, fellow commissioners, Dave Peterson, Executive Director with the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority. I'm very excited about the rail bikes. I think this is going to be an amazing outdoor activity that people can engage in. I think it's cool that it's on a railroad track. So you've got a historical piece to this, but also an outdoor recreation piece. I want to echo what Commissioner Santos said about events. We just had a group of 20-something people in town over the weekend for our gravel grinder bike race that will take place next year. We talked about the rail bikes. You know, these are mountain bikers, gravel grinders, road bike riders, and what a cool opportunity it would be for the non-participant, the non-rider, for their spouses and the kids and friends that are out here to go out and experience these rail bikes. Just to take these people into Carson River Canyon, I think, is going to be an amazing experience that these folks right now, they don't know about, right? They've not ridden out in that particular area in the Pine Nuts. So we're looking forward to working with Elaine and Argentum to market these rail bikes as a wonderful outdoor experience here in Carson City. So fully supportive of it. Thank you.
So when is your proposed race date?
Well, it's going to be moving to the fall, to September. So we're getting ahead of ourselves. We have our meeting next month as the CTA board, but we do have to move that meeting for several different reasons related to Pete Stetina, who the ride is named after his race schedule, and we've got soccer tournaments, and so just an issue with the month of May is what's come up, but we're going to be looking to move that out a little further out to September. And we'll either base out start and end at Pete Livermore Park or Ross Gold. So May, we were limited to the Ross Gold Park. Now we think that the Pete Livermore complex will be back in play for a start and finish for that particular gravel grinder event. So
Look forward to it.
yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. So
Yeah, it should be.
showcasing the Pine Nuts is just,
Any event
I'm excited about
we
it.
can bring to Carson
Yeah,
is good.
absolutely.
Well, no, but I think the gravel, if you look at what's going on with a lot of the races and a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of the bikes now. So
Yeah.
good job getting on the leading edge of that.
Yeah, we're very excited about it, and I think after seeing these bikes over the weekend, I now have an appreciation for how they're different from a mountain bike. They're expensive bikes, as you can imagine, without suspension. They kind of look like my old '97 Gary Fisher Tasahara, quite frankly, except they're wide framed, right? So really, really cool bikes, and again, for us, just to be able to showcase a different part of Carson City in the Pine Nuts, it's a different type of terrain that you're in, I think, relative to being up, in the 100-foot trees, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. And Peter really loved it out there on the test runs that
What
they've
is the
done.
length of the course?
Be 60 miles right now is what we're looking at. Subject to some change, but the route that they were speccing is about 60 miles. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready.
We'll sign you up, Stan.
We'll follow you.
Well, just a public comment. At 5:15 last night, 20 ladies came in our store, and they were all mid-60s, and they were from a bicycle group of Stockton. And they had ridden from Markleyville to Carson yesterday. And today they were going from Carson to the chocolate factory, and they figured they'd probably, after they hit the chocolate factory, they'd be wiped out and wouldn't go any further. But I told them about the rail bike, and I also mentioned about your proposed race coming, and they were very, very excited and very interested, so. Any other public comment? If not, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So be it. Thank you, everybody.